Hello and welcome back to my show, The Interview with Chiluveru. Today we have a distinguished guest, Mr. Gogineni. His full name is Ramanatha Babu Gogineni. He is a humanist and has a lot of different decorations, titles, and he has been doing a wonderful job all over the world in changing the human psychology about superstitions and untouchability. And I've also found out that there are some changes happening in the community at grassroots level. I've seen some examples, people calling him and telling him this is what I have done and it really worked. That's really great. So let's get started with Mr. Gogineni today. Thank you very much, Mr. Gogineni. Thanks for coming and giving me time to talk to you. I would like to ask you certain focused questions today so that our viewers will be able to benefit from this and try to understand what you're doing, your projects, your mission and goals. So my very first question is, if it was about 5 years back, I would have asked you this question: do people really notice what people like you are doing, like changing the psychology of the people or their viewpoint? But today I understand, and after watching certain YouTube videos, I understand people are receiving your message and people are applying and getting benefit. So let's start with that. So give me some examples of how your mission is accomplished, at least partly.
Thank you for the welcome. Yes, you're right. There is a lot of traction in society today for the kind of activism, not just I, but a huge number of people are now taking up. Okay. Until about 10 years ago, I was based in Europe, and there I did work with governments, United Nations, human rights activists, fellow NGOs. Mm-hmm. But when I relocated to India, back home, I decided that the work was not at the policy level, but at the grassroots level. Now, working at the grassroots level means engaging with people and talking about their lives.
Correct.
Not in terms of a strict schoolmaster telling someone that this is wrong or this is right, but to initiate a dialogue, to see what is the best way of living.
Right.
Now, you mentioned the word mission. I would say my mission is, which is self-decided, to promote an increased use of reason in personal and public life, as opposed to religion.
Correct.
Reason which has its basis in human experience and logic and evidence, and linked with human values. When we bring all this together, that would be humanism.
Correct.
Many are humanitarian, but my interest is humanist, not humanitarian.
Right.
So to evolve a philosophy of life which is secular, which does not require the human to believe in a religion or in a God, to be honest or good, to be good without God. That is the basic idea of humanism. How does it impact people? About 10 years ago, when I went to a meeting, there would be 3 people, 4 persons after an overnight journey by bus. That was all right. If there were 4 people listening to me, that's probably more than the number of people at home who want to listen to me. So why not? Let's go talk. It is always an engagement with beliefs, not an attack on them. But my philosophy has been that never fight the believer, because the believer, in my view, is a victim. But always fight with the purveyor of superstition, the astrologer, the Vastu Pandit, the homeopath.
Who is preaching those concepts?
Exactly. Right? Who is doing business. Who is not yet covered by the Consumer Protection Act. So we need to alert people to potential danger, sometimes life-threatening dangers, if they adopt a system of medicine or a system of belief or a system of architecture which may be unsafe for them. So how did it impact people? I think in many ways. I 2 years ago joined Facebook. And I have about 100,000 people associated with me on different accounts that I have on Facebook. I also realized when I got onto Facebook that already for about 6 or 7 years before I joined Facebook, or maybe 5 years, there was a group named after me. And these were young people who were watching my television interventions and who decided that these were ideas worth discussing. So when I got onto Facebook, here was this wonderful group of people, as I said, nearly 100,000, who were interested in the ideas I was proposing. So what many of them have testified is that when they started abandoning superstition, they were able to enjoy the eclipse.
Right.
They were able to go out and look at the sun. People who are happy to celebrate a new year, which comes once in 365 days, were unwilling to celebrate an eclipse, which comes in many thousands of days once in that particular place.
Sure.
That grand, beautiful spectacle in the sky, the theatre of light and darkness that one can appreciate.
Sure.
So many people have said to me that their eyes have opened to the beauty of the universe because they were no longer afraid, because they were now curious. And curiosity gives us energy in life because we want to know things, we want to find out things, we want to reflect on them.
And that will lead to change. Curiosity,
absolutely,
energy and change. Result is change.
Absolutely. Because you are no longer allowing somebody else to think for you.
True.
You are thinking for yourself.
Right.
On a day that you have thought for yourself,
Sure.
you will go to bed feeling very fulfilled. And this is a wonderful thing. At a practical level, people have told me that they were able to prepare better for their exams. Some, because I spoke about astrology and the pointlessness and the stupidity of astrological charts, which have no basis in the physical universe, about which we learn before we finish class 10, on which we write exams and pass.
Correct.
Astrology believes in a world, a universe, which has the earth at the center, the sun moving around the earth. The earth has to be flat for Vastu. They had no notion that the earth was revolving or rotating. For these people, the idea that astrology was nonsense was very liberating. They were in love with someone, but the local pundit said that the astrological charts were not matching. Many lives have been destroyed because they couldn't do what they wanted to. Because some uneducated fool came and told you that if you marry this person, if you do this thing, if you get a train at this time in the morning on this particular day of the week, your life will be ruined, and people stop doing it.
Sure.
The thing about superstition and ignorance is that it operates in a matter that is tyrannical. You don't think for yourself, your freedom is taken away. So pregnant women who have been told not to eat something, not to do something, healthy people who have been prevented from doing what they wanted, all this has happened because of superstition.
That's a crime.
Yes, and the victims of superstition, and I'm talking by the tens of thousands, have reached out and said, we have benefited from thinking about science instead of living in superstition. The examples are numerous. During eclipse, you're not supposed to go out. So a pregnant woman who went into labor pain was prevented from going to the hospital
and having a baby.
and having a baby. Now what is safer? The whole country now wants babies to be born in a hospital, in a maternity ward, because in our country, in India, but also in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and Pakistan and Nepal, the safest thing for the mother and the baby is the birth happening in the hospital. Maternity mortality, maternal mortality in the South Asian context is depressingly high. And here we are, there's a hospital waiting for you,
Right.
and you can't go out. And the most moving thing for me was when, after the baby was born, the brother of a lady called me and said, I watch your TV program, I convinced my parents, we took my sister to the hospital. And all the pundits have been saying, do not eat, do not drink during this time.
Right.
We gave her food. She was healthy, she was energetic, she gave birth to a baby, the baby is doing very well. It is very fulfilling when reason rescues you from superstition, lets you lead a good life. So how has it helped people? It has helped them by making them less fearful of the darkness.
After hearing what you said, I have two follow-up questions. The very first one is, are you focusing on the general public, that means who are the victims of these superstitions, or are you also reaching out to the people who are propagating the superstitions, like Vastu or astrology? Now, when you do the latter part, which is these people who are doing business and making millions of money, they will definitely go against your rationalism, right? They don't like it. And whereas if you really reach out these people, you need captive audience. And well, electronic media is one, and interviews like this. So how are you picking that captive audience where change is necessary? You said there are 13 countries where untouchability is still prevailing. And I was surprised. I thought it was only in India, but I would like to know which 12 other countries are. So please answer these two questions and help me out.
I don't reach out to the astrologer or the Vastu Pandit or the one who sells you colored stones or the ones who sell you colored threads for good luck. Well, if you expect good luck, and it's not out of a sentimental thing that a family member gave it to you as a gift, then you are betraying an ignorance about the way the universe operates. No colored thread, no colored band, no particular amulet is going to change the course of your life. This is one thing. But I don't address them, I challenge them. I say, you are into business, you are doing this, show it to me. Because you are making this claim on a falsehood. So as far as the purveyor of superstition is concerned, what is superstition? The belief that a regular, ordinary, everyday object can have magical powers because you have had an incantation, or that a color is lucky, a number is lucky, and so on. Now when people are reduced to the level of desperation, where they even change their name because some illiterate fool has asked them to change the spelling of their name, incidentally, they offer you corrections of your spelling in English language, whereas the names are Telugu or Tamil or Hindi.
Correct.
When they do that, I feel that the ones who are doing this are victims.
Right.
And I want to reach out to them simply by saying, think about it. Is it possible? Is it through human effort that you can improve your lot and your situation and station in life? Or is it by a magical incantation of some kind? My program is a program of general education to bring the facts that I bring no new fact to the table. This is what we have all learnt in school, but maybe we were not paying attention. Maybe we don't think about these. Because in India we don't have an education system, we have simply an examination system. And we are just preparing for exams, and by rote learning and regurgitating it in the exam, we get good marks. But the purpose of education is to make us think critically. And the purpose of education is to be able to apply that in practical life, personal life, social life. There we have a culture of science to be established in society. So that's what I do. As far as the second question about untouchability is concerned, untouchability is a human disease. When you do it, when you look at the question of untouchability from the viewpoint of an activist or a campaigner against it, as for example happens usually in India, then you are looking at the Hindu caste system and examining how the Hindu beliefs and caste system have impacted the social relations of vast numbers of people. What makes you consider another person not human enough for basic interaction? Why cannot I touch someone? How can my shadow be defiling to you? I want to first understand the problem before we come up with a solution.
Sure.
And for me, understanding the problem, like Dr. Ambedkar has done, reveals that the sociological phenomena is related to the concept of purity and pollution.
Okay.
Now, purity and pollution are different from cleanliness and dirt.
Right.
Purity is a cultural concept. It's something in the mind. So, you want to be pure is nothing to do with washing yourself with soap.
No.
Now, the notion of purity that applies to the food that you eat, the people you sit with, the people you have physical interactions with or physical relations with. If that is decided by the idea that I become impure if I do this, the eclipse makes me impure. I want to have a bath. The pushkaras will make me pure. So I can even dip myself in dirty water and feel pure about it. Now this is a mindset.
Correct.
Untouchability, I say, is a human disease, not simply of Hinduism, because almost every religion we are aware of, major religion, has had untouchability in it. Now the Japanese have had untouchability for many, many hundreds of years. Now the Japanese are Shinto. If you move a little towards the west, in Korea, South Korea, North Korea, before this division happened, also had untouchability. If you came to Burma, you had untouchability. Burma is not Hindu. Japan is not Hindu.
They're all Buddhist countries.
Burma is Buddhist.
Yes.
Japan is Shinto. You
So-
come to India, you have it. You have it also in Nepal. Though Nepal is largely called Hindu, there is a lot of mountain religion there. And mountain religion is not the same as mainstream Hinduism. Shakti is more important than Ram and Krishna.
Correct.
Ganesha is not that important for the Nepalese compared to what else they give value to.
Understand.
Then you also know that a woman in the period is considered untouchable. That's not about caste, it's about women. It's about biological activity, physiological activity of our beings. So purity and pollution is the thing. Pakistan and Bangladesh are Islamic societies today. There is untouchability there because the former Hindus who became Muslims changed their religion but could not change their caste. If you move further to Yemen, in Yemen too there is untouchability and there is no past Hindu background to them. So Islam entertained untouchability. And why will they not entertain untouchability? Because there was always slavery in Islam. When you have entertained slavery, what is your problem with untouchability? Both are fine for you. The Hindu culture had slaves. The Buddhist culture at some point had slaves. The Shinto religion treated many like slaves.
Come to your journey from your childhood until today. This is a guess because you come from a school that is inspired by Judy Krishnamurti. I guess one of the reasons why you became who you are is because of that, number one. Also, you went to Pondicherry, right? And you got inspiration from various sources, perhaps your parents and the schooling and the community you lived. Now, my first question is, when so much of untouchability and these superstitions exist mostly in India, what made you go to England and settle down there, number one? Number two, what is the need for the Western countries to understand about these things? For example, you're setting up something here in the US. I'm not questioning why, but what's the purpose? I would like to know the purpose. I'm not questioning. Same thing, England. So you're living in England, you're coming to the US, and whereas there's a lot of need in the Southeast Asia and East Asia as well as African countries. So I want brief answers, so I have more questions about what you're doing.
No, my influence is not because of Jiddu Krishnamurti.
It's not?
I went to a school when I was barely 5 or 6,
Right.
which was run by the Krishnamurti group. And
Was it Madanapalli?
No, this was Oasis School in Hyderabad.
Okay, it's not Rishi Valley.
No. And then I moved to Little Flower School, which has nothing to do with Jiddu
So
Krishnamurti.
both are different schools.
Indeed. Schools and schools of thought.
Right.
But I must say, the convent school I went to was absolutely accommodative of my atheism.
I have to interrupt. So I still would like to go back to the school, Oasis school. So were the not seeds planted at the time? You don't owe your credit to that at all?
No. My rationalism comes
There's
from my
nothing to-
home.
Okay,
My
not the
humanism
school.
comes from my home. And my home includes my parents, but also the books at home.
Sure.
So Bertrand
I'm
Russell
fine.
and M.N. Roy and Ambedkar and
Yes.
Buddha, all these were as much influences as a young child is always influenced by parents
Books, literature, parents, and a little bit school, but not
and
complete-
experience.
Experienced.
So this is one thing. Now, why is it that one wants to do something of the kind I am involved in, outside India, outside South Asia?
Correct.
We just choose to do what we want to do wherever we are living. I moved to the UK for professional opportunity, and I'm also rooted in European culture. I started when I was in school with learning French, and while I was still finishing grade 12, I already got involved in teaching the language at the Alliance Française. So I've had a lot of exposure to French, and I also have learned German. So French and German,
European
because
culture.
of these two languages, access to a wider culture of Europe.
Correct.
So I'm at home in Europe, and there was professional opportunity.
My
But,
question was more about, is it not difficult to do what you are doing? That was the premise of my question. So when I say, like, it's not that why you moved there is not what I want to know. Is it not becoming difficult for you to stay in a place whereas the need exists somewhere else? That's my question.
Oh, I'm in all the countries.
So you're traveling a lot.
I'm in the US now. I've been so often in France and in mainly UK and France. And I've had a long extended stay in India, which is my homeland, and Hyderabad, where I was born and grew up.
You
and
feel
went to
comfortable
college.
going there,
Yes. I have done as much work in Africa. I'm at home in all these places. Now, what we are doing, why am I in the US now, is it's very interesting. South Asia has given the world the largest number of migrants.
Right.
So,
Oh, yes. Right.
and migrants are economic migrants or refugees.
Right.
Now, Indians, 1.5 crores of Indians are living outside the
Outside
country
India.
of their birth.
Correct.
The same applies, similar proportions, ratios apply to Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has the added problem of refugees.
Right.
Europe is peopled by Sri Lankan refugees. So we are talking of a huge number of people. In the US, we are talking of 35 lakh Indians living here as people who have migrated for economic opportunity or family reunion. They bring with them their caste system. They bring with them the rich Indian culture.
You're answering my next question. That was, are they bringing this baggage called the caste system and everything along with them and practicing here? I have some
think,
experience which I'll share with you, but
Sure.
I would like to know more because you spoke to so many people from this point of view, right? So I want some examples, one or two funny examples. Give me those.
I think Indians have a rich culture back home, and they bring a lot of those valuable things of family relations, of a sense of dress and proportion and aesthetics and music and culture, no doubt.
Right.
But they also bring with them the backwardness in social organization. So one of the first questions you tend to ask or you tend to probe is the caste origin of the person you are meeting.
What's your caste? Where are you from?
Where are you from? I think this is a very backward thing. Another thing is, I have learned to my dismay, that Indians, many of them Telugu people, buying plots of land in this country to build a house, would like an east-facing plot and would even pay a premium of up to $75,000 for a piece of land. Now, what an absurd situation, and what a stupid situation, that you know that the earth is a sphere almost, and it is rotating around itself. Whichever direction your plot is facing, in 6 hours it is facing some other direction. It takes 24 hours to come back.
Your favorite direction. Supposing you believe in north, at some point it turns to north.
Well, north and south are fixed. That is because of the axis of rotation. But the rest
East
of it is up in the air, so to say. In space, there is no up and down, forget east and west. These are matters of convenience. They work well for us. But and how can we live on a flat earth to our perception without a sense of direction? That's not the problem. To make decisions thinking that a particular direction gives you health or wealth is the stupidity in the situation. So you have people like that, and I know of people who have given up a lot of their money in the pursuit of this imaginary happiness. India's greatness is in Aryabhatta. India's greatness is in Gautama Buddha. India's greatness, to some extent, is in how Ashoka ruled. It's not in the caste system. It's not in Vastu. It's not in astrology.
That reminds me, I was watching the TV show, Buddha. I think 1 or 2 episodes, they were focusing on this untouchability too. There are 2 Shudras who are walking along with the feathers of bird. They're supposed to do it because as they walk, they need to clean the floor or the ground. And they also need to carry a small pot where they need to split their own spittle. And that really moved me. And even 2,500 years back, that existed. And he was one who was against that. He used to go and then deliberately touch those people and tell Brahmins standing in front of him, saying, this is not wrong. No one is untouchable. Everybody has got equal value to live in this earth, on this earth, with the same respect. So that's what he taught. That was really moving.
Absolutely. I think the Buddha was one of the greatest moral preachers of his time. I would not say philosopher, but a moral preacher of his time.
He spread what he learned or what he got.
And the interesting thing about the Buddha is this. He lived in the caste system all around him.
Kshatriya.
What does he do? He opens the doors of the Sangha to anyone. So suddenly, it didn't matter what caste you belonged to, you could enter the Sangha. And the Sangha decided through a vote how its rules had to be framed. This man, 2,500 years ago, surrounded by the backwardness and the primitiveness of the ignorance and the social relations of the time, creates an oasis for the human, based on human values, democratic participation in society. And then he says, and this is extraordinary, do not even believe in me until it stands the test of reason.
Correct. You experience.
Who have we seen on the earth with such great moral caliber and quality and insight? They asked him about God. He said, don't waste your time about it. When he was nearing his death, some of the last things he said to people is, do not lie, do not steal, do not hurt anyone. He didn't speak of the afterlife. He said the Tathagata will not believe in the soul and in the afterlife and in rebirth. All the good we have to do should be done while we are here alive. What a superb mind. What a great direction to society.
Enlightened.
And he was born before Socrates was born. Sadly, India lost the benefit of that great enlightenment. I don't mean divine enlightenment, but an insight into human nature. Right living, right thinking, right action. He did not say, do not do this and do not do that and put a list of taboos and say this is pure and this is impure.
You are here representing an organization and you opened up a chapter in the US. And we are going to talk to Ram Gangaraju, who also is the General Secretary of the organization. But I want to know the objectives and the mission of, you were talking about it, yes, people coming from different parts of the country, India, still bring the superstitions as well as the casteism. But here, do you think they are going to change? As you said, they are earning a lot of money, they are happy physically, they are living a very convenient life. Do you think, okay, you tell me about all those things, do you think first of all I'm going to listen to what you're saying and then change? Change happens only when there's a need, there's an inspiration, there is a desire to change. But here, yesterday also, I was sitting in a discourse and the gentleman also was saying the same thing, he was sort of preaching the same thing. You will never change unless there's a motivation, right? So, I got the question, right? I don't need to ask the question. So please explain why and how do you think our people are going to pay attention to anything that you are trying to spread?
Yes, I think we need to have an insight into the sociology of the migration and the psychology of the migrant. You see, there are people who are trying to define their identity.
Okay.
They leave India, they have been reasonably secular in India.
Correct.
They've gone possibly once a month to the temple, if at all.
Right.
And they probably needed a priest only at the time of marriage or when a death happens in the house. They come here, they're surrounded by Christian religion everywhere.
Right.
Look out of the window and there is a cross, there is Christmas, there is everything else. And you're challenged to define yourself. Unfortunately, because we are not prepared for this transfer of residence and clash of culture, we start defining ourselves in terms of our religion rather than our culture.
Okay.
This confusion between religion and culture will make you go every week to the temple, will make you go and start becoming religious, which you were not when you were living in India. So we want to help the ones who are forced to go to the temple to define an identity for themselves, number one. Number two, who are forced to go to the temple because that is the only cultural center they know. You want to learn Bharatanatyam, you want to do Kuchipudi, you want to learn music.
Learn your own mother tongue.
You are going to the temple.
Learn an instrument, maybe veena or something.
Exactly.
Like that. Right. Okay.
I believe that we should open up secular opportunities to learn about Indian culture, which is not Hindu culture, it is Indian culture. I go to Telugu meetings. You asked if there will be people listening to us.
Right.
We had a meeting in Nata last year. There were hardly 5 or 6 people interested in what we were doing. Several weeks later, a couple of months later, we had a meeting at ATA, a workshop. We had 120 people sitting in the room. They had a need. They wanted to understand the link between science and modern life. We had 2 days of conferences in the Thana meeting sponsored by the South Asian Humanist Association. It was called Humanist Horizons and it was a rationalist forum. 2 days of meeting. We had 125 people there. Last year I had 30 lectures. We must have reached out to 2,000 people. So the fact is, there are these people. So we are not creating the need, we have identified the need for secular interaction amongst people who come from India, but not just India. The people from Bangladesh, the people from Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Afghanistan, all these people have also secular needs. They also want to meet people like themselves. Why should Thana be considered wrongly as a Hindu organization?
Correct.
It's a Telugu organization.
Perfect.
So we want to help give that clarity. We already have it. The number of invitations I am getting from various people to come and spend some time to engage in a dialogue with them on these issues is an indication. So I think will they come is a theoretical question which has now been answered. They are coming. Why should we do it? Because there is a need to develop our culture to go beyond religion, the assumptions of religion, into a modern society. The people of India who are immigrants, and not just US,
Right.
all over the world,
Anyway.
sadly are living in cultural ghettos. They meet each other, they eat the same kind of food, and I have no problem with that because Indians are wonderful people. I have no problem with Indians cooking good Indian food because we have one of the best cuisines around. But to exclusively do that, never have contact with the black people in this country, the Chinese in this country,
Of course, yeah.
or the white people in this country, beyond the possibilities of professional life. Who do you meet on a weekend?
Our own people.
And where do you meet them? In each other's homes or in a temple? So this is the ghetto.
You are living in a comfort zone, like you created your own shell, you live there.
Shell is the right word. I think comfort zone is probably too gentle for what is happening. It is a cultural ghetto. The intermarriages, the feeding on each other's superstitions, paying $50,000 to wash the feet of a visiting Swami is what? Yes, you have the right to do it. There is no question about that.
But that's not the only thing.
Yes, I mean, to now transport and transplant a culture that is destroying our country back there, and to import it and impose it on the situation here.
And glorify.
And glorify it. Now, why is it holy to wash somebody's feet?
Absolutely.
Why is it holy to touch somebody? What divinity is there in human that you can't find in God? Why are some people claiming to have special qualities, powers, moral? What have they done to improve the society? What have they done to destroy the caste system, which is destroying humanity? What have they done to feed the poor who are suffering? They have done nothing. So what has given them this special divinity and powers? A claim on the name of religion, that's all. A claim made on the basis of birth. Will a Dalit become a Swami? Will you wash his hands and legs? Will you even let him in the house? You will not. So when we talk of racism, when you talked about Alabama and the Stone Mountain and Georgia and the slave states, it looks like a horrible thing. What are we doing in the name of the caste system? The cultural ghettos are from where discrimination is propagated in the name of a glorious culture. The glorious culture we must celebrate as Indians, as modern Indians, is a culture we got from the Buddha, not the caste system. The idea that you can investigate things, you can examine, you can understand. Aryabhatta, not astrology, not Vastu. And this confusion that that is your identity is such a bad thing. You have destroyed the image of India. The greatness of India is being replaced by the ignorance of your limited beliefs because you've been so lazy, you never tried to find out what was the great things that India offered the world. Mathematics, metallurgy. India never made vimanas. India never made flying machines 4,000 years ago. India never had head transplants and surgical achievements of that kind. Those are the achievements of modern human. Whether Indian, whether Egyptian, whether Greek, Christian, Muslim, it doesn't matter. They are humans. Human achievements should be welcomed and recognized as such.
The Western philosophers and thinkers who visited India and lived in India, several of them, more than 10 I can think of, have appreciated our culture and our heritage. And they made a lot of statements and quotations. Now, not even a single person is really appreciating the same heritage of the culture. I think it's vanishing. Well, thank you, Mr. Babu and Mr. Gogineni, for sparing your valuable time, number one, in spite of your busy schedule. Number two, you are very bold and authentic, genuine and down to earth. I'm sure my viewers are going to watch this and then try to understand your mission and then join hands with you to spread the word around. Thank you very much. And it was
a great pleasure talking to you. Humanism.asia is how they will get to see what is being done in this country, in the UK, in France, in Germany, in Canada. If they want to connect with me on Facebook, there are Facebook accounts in my name, Babu Gogineni.
I will put a slide for all these URLs as well as the about you, the bio and stuff like that. I'm going to do. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Thank you for coming in and joining us, and I understand you took up this new role of being the secretary of this organization. I would like to know more about this society which Mr. Gogineni is trying to propagate in this part of the hemisphere. So can you please share your role and your mission about this.
The role is organizational development, secretary for that. As Babu sir rightly said, humanism is part of the South Asian culture for a long time.
Okay.
And what has brought us together, and a lot of fellow humanists in the South Asian background, ethnicity, is humanism. And we're not against religion. We are against the name of the business happening in the religion and stupidity and skimming the money out of the innocent people by telling all the stupid, humanism is opposed a sophisticated approach, non-violent approach. It's more of spreading the science, temperament, encouraging the next generation kids, next generation families. My role is to reach out to the South Asian associations, South Asian community, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Burma, it doesn't matter. What brings us together is a humanism, and what brings us together more is the scientific temperament. And if you understand, we don't want to pertain to the local community like Telugu or Tamil or anything.
It can be anywhere.
Yeah, it can be anywhere. But
any human.
Our outreach has started with reaching out to the Telugu community because there's humanism a part of Telugu culture for a long time than people actually thought of. From Buddha's time, maybe before, we don't know. So we started there. We did the 2 days programs, but before that we did the science fairs. We had a lot of students that came up, the young generation kids who have very good IQ, and we tapped the talent. And fortunately, we have a very encouraging producer, Nagamalla Reddy, who has done a movie called Legacy Power Tarajavalu, which is again about the scientific temperament and talking about the good education system not having this repeated way of approaching the enforcement of the mathematics on somebody's without having their interest into it. That kind of a temperament is not there. So he wanted to bring that. So it so happened that we all three got together, Mahesh Katti, me, Babu Garu, we got together and we wanted to do that premiere at Thana. So we did that. So this is only a start, but it will grow on in much more in a broader way. But more focus will be on the South Asian Humanist associations, association with other associations. So that is where I come in.
You want to.
I want to bring all. Yeah, I'll bring all that. Synergy or energy, whatever you want to call. But my role is to bridge that gap or bridge between us to them and bring them together. So it don't have to be religion. They can be religious, but at the same time they can be humanists. But they should not get sold into the religion in the name of stupidity. That's what we are trying to accomplish.
Challenge caste.
Yeah, and also, that is Madhviga's thing, but I'll explain it.
When you were talking about Telugus, I'm very unhappy about what you said. You didn't say Telugu people are good listeners and very receptive. I'm very mad with you.
They can be whatever they want,
kidding.
They can be whatever they want. But my message has to be loud and clear and crisp and to the point. Because if I don't tell this one today, the people will still be in this kind of oblivion, and they'll be living this in oblivion for next 20 years. Which is as a humanist from my side, I'm doing a grave danger to the society if I'm not telling this one now.
By not doing something also, you're a part of it.
Yeah, part. If you be intelligent person's silence is more dangerous to the country than a dangerous person, spreading the violence around the country. Is the statement quoted by Abdul Kalam or somebody?
Yes.
But it's exactly true
about this.
And we thought that the reason that Babu Garu has become our ambassador and a founder of the organization is that we thought that we have a lot of things that we have in common between us, in him, and more. So we kind of said that he should not be alone. There are people in India for him, but who are there for him in USA and North America? UK has been there, but in Europe, it's like for him it's at home. But we want him to have the same kind of a reach out in USA.
Partners, right?
So like-minded people, we got together and we formed this association. But a lot of Telugu people may be mad at me, but a lot of my fellow Indians are also mad at me. My fellow Americans are also mad at me. My fellow Bible-holding Americans are also mad at me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So with this one, we wanted to again re-emphasize the fact that humanism.asia is the place to go.
Sure.
And if anybody would like to have any scientific temperament or approach towards the kids, any programs that they want to do, Tarajulu programs will always be there with us. There's a Tarajulu quiz program, there's a Tarajulu science fair. It will happen every year. American Telugu Association has shown interest that they want us to do that one on an annual basis for their conference. American Telangana Association showed interest. So then we have Indian American Cultural Association from Atlanta.
Yes.
It's kind of a little bit. When they are, I don't know. It's too early to talk about it, but it is in works.
Sure.
So thank you for taking the time and seeing my small tidbit at the end of the Babu Garu's interview. But this is what we do, and this is what we want the truth to be told.
Sure.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Thanks a lot for the time for being here.